king, we are taking, this is our time. Just breathe, this won't be a hard fight. The truth casts shadows in the night.
Hey, Johnny, can you hear me?
Yeah, man, I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what
How
that
you
problem
been?
was, so doing good, doing
Um,
good.
I know what it is. I think it's a little thing called StreamYard. I
Probably.
think that
We've been
I
lucky the
think
last
that's
couple
what
of
it's
shows. We haven't
called.
had any issues. You know, it's
Yeah, I don't know,
definitely
man.
got its glitches.
It's hit or miss. I'm sure everybody's tired of us talking about it. We're already shopping around, folks. So hopefully we'll have all this figured out. And Vic Cundiff, our guest from the last podcast, he has offered to help us out with anything like that. We also got another guy, Tom, that I've been talking to. Uh, is super smart when it comes to computers and all kinds of other stuff, and he sends me stuff all the time. Like any question I have about any kind of computer stuff, he's just like, he knows it. So we'll get it figured out. But anyway, did you start your new job?
Yes and no. Going through some other stuff right now, but everything looks good. Everything's good. Um, but it's just one of those things dealing with contracts and stuff like that, and negotiating and getting things kind of where you want them. But everything's real good. But I was going to call you today. I just didn't want to bother you before the show. But I got some chicken questions, and I know you got chicken, so
Chicken questions.
I
Yeah,
got
we
some
can
chicken
do.
questions.
If I can't answer it, my wife can. So
Yeah. So I got some chicken questions. I only got two chickens, but yeah, I got some chicken questions.
how big are they?
They're adult size, white one and a red one. Both, neither one's a rooster, but one's producing all the time, at least one egg a day, and one of them, we can't tell which one's producing, but one of them is not producing, because if you're only getting one egg a day, it's one chicken doing it, and
Right.
trying to figure out what's going on. What do I need to do to get this chicken excited
Has
about getting out?
it has it been cold down there?
The last couple of days has been really nice. We did had a cold front that was pretty cold, upper 40s, but right now it's been nice. I can go outside with just a hoodie or a sweatshirt on and relax. But I think we got another cold
Well,
front
we
coming
got
in.
we got four chickens, and I'm getting one egg a day. But we've had a lot
Oh,
of cold weather, so it goes up and down with the weather usually.
yeah. I go out there, check them once a day, make sure they got feed and water, and there's always one egg every day, religiously. One egg, one egg, one egg. And really odd because I got one egg that was shaped, I mean, just oval. I mean, it's shaped like that instead of egg shaped. It was like long. It's just the oddest. I have to send you pictures. The oddest looking egg that I've ever seen in my life. But
I guess we've had chickens for I think about 5 years now, maybe six. I can't remember. But Nikki finally just opened her first rotten egg,
oh
the
wow.
first one we've ever gotten, and it made the entire house stink for an entire day. So that was great.
I have a
That
dozen
was
so
great.
far. A dozen eggs in the refrigerator. I haven't ate any of them yet, but I have a dozen. But like I said, I'd have 2 dozen if both of them would pay rent. So
Yeah. Well, eventually, when that one catches up, you're gonna have more eggs than you know what to do with, probably.
well, that's the hope since I'm on a nothing but a protein diet. So
Yeah. We're good to go.
he's not.
Let's get in.
I'm not seeing him backstage.
Really?
So
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah,
let me fill everybody in on my stuff. Uh,
he was
I'm
there a minute ago. And then he disappeared.
about almost 4 weeks ago now, altogether. I had an incident on my front porch, where I thought it was a throw. I thought it was an object that was thrown. And what I heard while I'm sitting there, the first thing that happens is the cat jumps up. The fat kitty jumps up and like runs off like something's after her. Like I've never seen her move that fast in my life. And I'm like, what in the world's going on with that? So I look around for all the other animals, and I'm just sitting there watching an Instagram video, and I hear what sounds to me, I thought it was something hitting leaves, and then it hit the porch like 10 feet away from me where the cooler is. And because the Instagram video was so loud, I thought it was just an object that was being thrown. But I was excited because uh, I had a body camera on the railing sitting there, and it was facing like the direction I thought the throw came from. So I'm like, yes, I got this throw recorded. Well, I bring it inside, and it's not an object being thrown. Apparently, it was either next to or underneath my porch, and it had a stick in its hand, I'm assuming. And first, it starts out with like it's banging underneath the porch, and then it hits the bushes several times, and then hits the porch with the stick, and then throws the stick. And of course, the camera's turned like an eighth of an inch too far to the right. If it would have been just a little bit to the left, it would have picked up the whole thing, but it didn't. But the interesting part about that, I'm putting out a video probably tomorrow. I'll be finished with it. Is this is the third year in a row that I'll have the interactions and stuff for like 3 months. And then at the end of that 3 months, the past 2 years in a row, one year they came up to the left side of my property, and they were out there met like banging on stuff. And then they vocalized 4 or 5 times. And then I didn't have activity until the end of the wintertime. And then the next year was the same exact thing, except on the other side of the property. They came up and they were throwing stuff. I walk out there, and that's the juvenile, what sounds like a Native American child running through the woods. And I got that recorded. And then after that happened, I didn't get activity again for till like the end of the wintertime. So the porch incident happened, and that was almost 4 weeks ago now. So I guarantee the activity won't start again until the end of the wintertime. But that's the stuff I'm talking about with like intellect. That's like they're intentionally coming up almost like they're saying bye, or like they're, if nothing else, they just show their butts one last time, and then that's
Right.
it. Which is, the whole thing's crazy, man. Just to have them, just to have it get that close, like while I'm sitting out there on the front porch with the lights on. And I'm thinking about it, like, why? Like they've gotten, that close before when I'm back in the woods, but never like inside the perimeter of my fence. And I'm thinking, why? What made them do that? Well, we've had a stray kitten show up about a month ago now, a little over a month ago, and we've been keeping the dogs inside, except at night we bring them out so they can go to the bathroom because they won't leave that cat alone. So that's what I guarantee that's probably what it was, is they figured out that, hey, he's not letting his dogs out anymore. Like they're not outside all the time now.
Right.
So it's just wild, man. Just I don't know. I never thought, and that's why Neil's going to be a good guest, is he's had activity on his property like I've had activity on my property. So, Andy lives in Georgia. So
yeah. I was talking to him last night. We spoke on the phone, and going over the show and everything, and he went over some of his encounters and things that he ran across, and there were so many similarities between him and yourself. You know what I mean? Especially being
Right.
lucky enough that all you got to do is walk outside your house and you can start investigating. Where I'm not that lucky; I have to travel. So, but he's backstage. Let me bring Neil on.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Dale,
Hey, Neil.
what's going on, buddy?
Doing good. How y'all doing? Can y'all hear this okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
Yeah,
Okay.
sound
All
good to
right,
me.
good. Okay. I know I look funny with blue headphones, but I guess the white grayish hair really shines it, shows it up good.
That's
That's
why I wear a hat.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm about there. I'm right behind you, man. I got a bunch of. At least yours is a pretty white color. Mine's just gray everywhere.
Yeah, I've got a lot of people wanting to rent me for Santa Claus. I said, no, my beard's not long enough. Sorry.
So Neil,
But
tell us about yourself, man.
well, we bought this property as a retirement place about 10 years ago. It had been abandoned 8 to 10 years. My wife found it. She knew that I wanted to retire and have some property because I'd always grown up on some land and loved the outdoors, loved the animals, learned tons about all the animals, and thought I knew everything about them. And then when I moved here, we had a lot to clean up because it was overgrown, so we had to clear out a bunch of stuff. And then I always wanted some fruit trees, so I planted some fruit trees. And as I'm clearing it out, I'm seeing things that don't match. Now, we don't have bear here, but I'm seeing things that don't match the wildlife. The wildlife here should be the same as what I grew up around. But I'm like seeing a trail that looks like it was made by elephants, except it's in a one straight line, and everything in the trail is just crushed. And I was like, no, I don't know anything that can do this. I had to clear out a bunch of brush, and it just opened up. And I mean, I've got wide shoulders and I'm tall and I could raise my hands up and still not be close to anything on top. The trail was that big. And then it would go out on the other side of that little opening the same way. But it didn't make any sense because I'd never seen anything that could do that. Um, then there was an old dried up pond on the other side of the creek. We had two creeks on the property, an old dried up pond. Started to go across it. They had used a bulldozer. The streams that we have 8 to 12 foot banks. Started to go across where the bulldozer went, and there were three tr- parts of a tree had been broken and put side to side, one after another, on the trail. There were no cut marks on it. No tools had been used. It looked like they were just snapped like a matchstick. It made no sense because it was all grown up over there. When I did finally get them moved out of the way, I had to run over brush that I could run over with the Polaris just to make a trail to get to the pond. But it made no sense. These things were huge. They were big as round as my waist, but they went side to side in that cut, one after another, three of them. Like, why would they do that if they're going to abandon the property, or why would this be here, and how would they move them? I mean, these things were heavy, no tool marks at all. Then we got over to the pond, refilled it, started restocking it, had minnows in it. After we put the minnows in it, there was an open sided barn because it used to be a farmer's place and it had a bunch of old structures on the property. And a lot of them were on the other side of the stream. And um, this was an open sided barn by the pond. And they had evidently had made furniture in it because there was sawdust on the ground and there was a big table that they had used to cut the wood on. My dad used to do furniture, so I recognized it right off what they were doing. But it caught on fire one time. Well, I guess somebody was smoking over there. It got into the sawdust and smoldered, and I saw the smoke. And me and one of my sons went over there. Had a rake in the back of the side by side, and I was pushing it under the table so it wouldn't get to the roof. Because if it got to the roof, there's nothing I could do. It's 12 to 18 foot high. And I was like, what? I got to get this out. So I told my son to go grab one of my other sons in 2 buckets. Because of the banks, I had to put one of the kids in the creek to dip the water, and the other one had to run it to me. So they were running it to me, but I was like, there's no way it's going to burn through this table. It's going to burn this place down. I went ahead and called the fire department. Well, luckily, it never burnt through the table. And at the time, I couldn't understand why it didn't, because it should have. They got there, they started tearing the table apart, and we realized that it would have plywood on top of an old pool table that had slate in the bottom, and that's why it didn't burn through it. It was burning, the slate was stopping it from burning through. But they threw the legs in there, the sideboards in there, and they were in the pond. So I just let them be. We just put the minnows in there. Well, it came time that the minnows were going to start. Actually, when you stock the pond, it's kind of a process. You put them in first, wait several months before you put the baby brim in, then wait about a year before you put the bass in. That way the bass don't eat everything up. So it came time that the minnows were going to go ahead and start laying their eggs under wood and stuff. They have what's called sticky eggs. So I was like, okay, I need to go ahead and get these boards out. And it was really weird because when the firemen threw it in there, they just threw it out in the middle. And we were pumping water from one of the creeks into the pond and then having it flow back into the creek, the excess. But all the sticks had moved, and way we had it set up, the water was only going in on one side, so it should have pushed all the boards to the other side, but they weren't. They were in all four corners and on each side, and the burnt side was down. And I'm like, that's crazy. The burnt side is the light side. Why are all the burnt side down? So I borrowed a little John boat, went to get them, flipped them over, and when I flipped them over, on the burnt side there were leeches all over it, big leeches. So I got them off, which I didn't want them sticking to me. Got them off, threw them in the boat. It was a process. It took some time. I thought it'd be something quick and easy. It wasn't, because there were tons of leeches on that thing, on those boards. I threw them out. We have a side-by-side trail by the pond and then a big bank where they had pushed the dirt when they built the pond. So I threw them up on high on the hill on the bank. The next weekend we come back, they're back in the pond again. One in each corner, one on each side, the burnt side down, within 3 foot of the bank. I'm like, how'd this happen? It hadn't been drug. There were no drag marks. There were no footprints over there. I'm at a loss. It doesn't match anything I know. And by the way the streams are and the banks, it would pretty much block anybody from coming on the property. And where people would walk, there were no footprints. You know, they're going to walk on a well-used trail. They're not going to walk through the woods. So I got them out again. This time I put them higher up on the bank behind some brush and a tree. I said, they're not going anywhere this time. If somehow it fell back in, it's not going this time. The next weekend, they were in again, in all four corners, burnt side down, within 3 foot of the bank. I'm just like, this is crazy. You know, beavers aren't going to touch something that's burnt. Some of those legs weighed 20 to 30 pounds. They were heavy because it was made out of old oak. And nothing's gonna put those back in there. At the time, we didn't have any wild hogs on the property. Later on, we did have some wild hogs come in, but at that time, we didn't have any wild hogs. We had very few deer, which was abnormal because it should have been a deer haven. Two crystal clear springs, stuff for them to eat everywhere, bedding stuff everywhere. But I got the boards out again. The next weekend, they were back out. I took them out one more time, and I said, I threw them on the other side of the bank. I said, if they come out and get back in there, it can just stay. I'm at a loss. Next weekend, they're in there. I said, okay, the guppies are going to just have to, the minnows are going to have to just survive on their own. I'm not dealing with that anymore. Don't know what's doing it. It makes no sense. No animal can do it. Humans can do it, but why would they do it? I mean, the only reason I could see it being done was for the leeches. Later on, it did make sense. So what happened then is um, our our trees that we planted, our fruit trees, were all real young. We started them from like 6 or 8 foot, let them grow up. Well, when we started putting food out for the deer, we weren't hunting them. We were just going to watch them because my dad always said, if you're not going to eat them, don't shoot them. But I love the outdoors. So I put bird feeders off the back porch. I put stump feeders out. I put planted clover out there, mineral blocks, everything to attract the deer, and they started to come. Well, when they did, they started eating the browse off of the fruit trees. So I had to put T-posts around them and deer netting, and also at the same time put fabric on the ground to stop the all the grass and everything from getting all the nutrients out of the soil and the water, so they could get more. Well, when the peach trees started to make, they started to get ready. The first time there was about 6 to 8 peaches per tree. We had 3 different ones, 2 different types. I told the kids, hey, some of them are going to be ready this weekend, so Saturday we'll go get them. We went back out there. Every peach was gone. All 3 trees. Every one of them are gone. Now, some of these were at the very top of the trees, which at that time it got to 8 to 10 foot tall. And it's in the middle of the T-post and this netting, and nothing's happened to the netting, but they're gone. Didn't make any sense. So then the next year, the same thing happened, but there were more peaches. They started getting ripe. I tell the kids we're going to go pick some this weekend. By the weekend, every one of them's gone. Figs also, um, the ripe figs were pulled off and gone. Not the green ones, but the ripe ones were pulled off and gone. And it's making no sense because I hadn't seen any squirrels or birds on the fig trees, stuff like this. Excuse me. So then, Christmas of 2019, my kids bought me a plywood cutout of a Bigfoot, which I was excited about it. And I'd always learned about Bigfoot, UFOs, Loch Ness Monster, all that stuff as a kid. I was really interested in it because it was stuff that I'd never seen before, so I had interest in it. I thought that there was a 50-50 chance in UFOs and a 50-50 chance of Bigfoot because there were so many sightings of it and so many people had sightings and Indians had a history with them. Well, I put that Bigfoot cutout out there. 2 weeks later, my wife is watching a scary movie with a couple of the kids, and it was really late. She had the fireplace on. This would be in January because it was a couple of weeks after Christmas. And the 2 kids went to bed, and she got hot in the house. They had the heat up and they had the fireplace on. So she went on the back porch to cool off. Well, to the right of her, there was a really loud whistle. The dogs, we have the outside dogs, and the outside dogs, we have a big shed for them to live in with a hole cut in it, but it's got a heater and air conditioner in there to keep them, well conditioned from the temperature changes. But they ran out of there and started jumping up on the fence and barking like crazy. Then it moved 30 to 35 yards to the left and whistled again. She couldn't see it. It's right out of the light, but it whistled really loud again. So she thought it was one of the kids playing a trick on her. She couldn't figure out anything else. She said, okay, game's up, come inside. Next thing you know, it moves another 30 to 35 yards, but it's within 5 to 10 yards of the dog pen, and they are growling, jumping on the fence, snapping at them, everything else. No animal's going to do that. No animal's going to go 5 to 10 yards to a bunch of dogs jumping against the fence, and one of them's a bulldog. jumping up against the fence, barking, snapping their lips. None of them going to do that. And she realized then that it wasn't one of the kids because they would have smelled the kids and stopped it. Then it went another 30 to 35 yards down near the creek and whistled again. And then she ran inside, checked on the kids. All the kids were asleep. She came and woke me up and said, come outside, come outside. There's something out here. I went out there. She told me the whole story. I didn't hear anything when I was out there, but I know she doesn't lie. So the only thing I'd ever heard in nature do a whistle like that, besides a bird, but this is at night. This is at 11 to 1 a.m., 11 o'clock to 1 a.m., sometime in that time zone, is a matriarchal doe. One time I had snuck up on it, and when she saw me, had all of her herd of does with her, and she whistled, and they all just exploded in all directions. But no deer, even in ruts, going to run towards dogs barking and going crazy. So 2 weeks later, our bedroom wall, we've got windows on each side of the bed. Something hit our house so hard, the whole house shook. It was a brick wall. It was 4:47 in the morning. I'm a light sleeper. As soon as I opened up my eyes, there's a big picture above, right in between the two windows, right above our heads. The top was going back to the wall, which means the top went out first, then the bottom came out and went back, and then it turned sideways. And my wife woke up, and she never wakes up. She woke up, and she said, "What was that?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know what did that." So we listened for a while, nothing else, didn't hear anything else. So I went and I was trying to look at everything. Okay, earthquake. No, it's not an earthquake. I've been through an earthquake and it rolls under the house. And this was a high on the wall. A storm with a tree falling. No, no tree can reach from there. And then there's no bad weather. We don't have any bad weather, no wind, nothing going on outside. Sonic boom. I'd heard sonic boom shake a house. Well, there was no jet wash after it went by. There was no other sound of a jet. I'm very familiar with it, so it wasn't a jet. Somebody doing an explosion, dynamite or something exploding nearby. Well, I checked my iPad for everything, the towns near it, to see if anything was reported. Nothing was reported. Nothing made sense. The next morning, I go out, and outside that wall, all the grass was mashed flat on the ground. Everything was flattened. And up on the wall, about 9 foot up, was a big circle where something had vibrated all the dust and dirt off in a big circular pattern. So something had hit really high up on the wall. In fact, it was right next to the roof, and it made no sense. What animal can do that? An animal running into the house, even a horse is not going to be up that high. Nothing's going to be up that high. I'd also seen some sticks that were broken near the pond that were twisted about 9 to 10 foot up. And I'm like, what? It takes hands to twist the stick to break it. What's breaking these sticks like this, So I decided, just out of curiosity, I put in the iPad Bigfoot in the town closest to us. And a BFRO report came up and said that there was a Class A sighting. The location was unknown. They saw one. It had growled at them. It had been throwing stuff on their back porch, on a barn, on their roof. And I'm like, by the roads, by the description of where the roads are, I'm like, this is close to us. By what they're describing on the roads, this is close to us. If it's not this place, So I decided I'd met this guy in North Georgia at Expedition Bigfoot, and I called him to see if he might know somebody in the BFRO so I could talk to this person to find out exactly where this was. Well, when I talked to him and everything, he said, "Yeah, I remember that." He said, "I used to be in the BFRO. I'm not anymore, but I remember that person, but we're not in touch with them anymore. they moved off, and I don't have a way to contact them. So I said, okay. He said, well, he said, can I ask you some questions? What's going on? So I told him all the stuff that's going on, about the stuff that was broken, about the trail, about the logs, about the sticks in the pond and stuff. And he said, well, can I ask you some questions? I said, sure. He said, do you hunt? I said, no, I don't hunt. When I got here, I thought it would be a deer paradise, but there really wasn't that many deer. But I started putting out clover, all kind of food for the deer to draw them in. I put bird feeders in the back for the birds. I'm feeding the fish. So you're feeding the animals, but not hunting them. I said, right. Feeding them, but not hunting them. I said, okay. He said, have you ever had any fruit go missing? I said, yeah, by the way, I've had our peaches went missing 2 years in a row. It's the only thing that's really made. He said, okay. And he asked a couple of more questions. And he said, okay, I think I know what's going on. Now, at the time, I was heading towards Bigfoot, but I didn't think, I thought if there was one still alive, it would be in Oregon, California, Washington, Alaska, Canada. Nothing ever would be here. And he said, he said, you know what's going on. That's why you called me. You have a Bigfoot. And I said, I have a Bigfoot? Now I'm blown away. I said, what does this mean? What are they trying to say and do? He said, they're trying to let you know that they're there and they want to coexist with you. Now that really blew me away. How can a person go and not only tell me that one's here, but tell me that they want to coexist with me and let me know that they're here? And I asked him, I said, how do you know that? He said, well, let me ask you some more questions. He said, have you ever had trees over your road? No. Have you ever had growls coming from your woods at night when you're on the back porch or anywhere? No. Have you ever had something hit the side of your house 3 or 4 times, 2 or 3 times a week? No. Have you ever had rocks or acorns or sticks thrown on your roof? No. He said, if they didn't want you there, that's what they would be doing. He said, evidently, they've been watching you because we had been there several years by that time. They have been watching you, and they think that there's a chance that they can coexist with you, or they wouldn't even let you know they were here. I said, okay. I've always gone by the motto, trust but verify. So I said, okay, I'm going to trust what he says because it matches what would be causing all the stuff that I'm seeing that doesn't make sense. The twisting of things, the peaches going missing, the stuff broken, the trail flattened out, like something with big feet and heavy walked it. And I'm telling you, they had been there for a long time because all the tree limbs that were broke on the side of the trail were old, but the trail was cleaned and flattened recently. So they were still there, but they had been there for a long time. So I said, I've got to find a way to prove it to myself. I always go by trust but verify, so I need to prove it. So there was a tree over there next to that trail. So I came up with the idea to take 2 headless nails, nail them as high up as I can on the tree, and stick red delicious apples on each one of them. I said, if there's one around, they'll smell that apple and they'll come get it and eat it. So then I got the rake, still I keep it in the side by side in the back of it. I started raking off. I was going to go to the dirt because I wanted to see a footprint. I wanted proof that they were there. I got down, the leaves were so thick there that I got down to a spongy soft spot underneath where it was real wet and spongy. I said, okay, I don't need to get to the dirt because something heavy, if it steps here, I'll see a print. So I just left it like that. When I went back down there, on the way down, I could see that the apples were gone. I was excited. I said, well, maybe I can get lucky and have a print. Sure enough, near the tree, there was a print in that area that was 16 to 16 and a half inches long. and it was wider than my foot. My foot's 5.5 inches wide. I've got my shoes 13 and a half inches long, 5.5 inches wide. It was wider than my foot, but it was 16 to 16 and a half inches, and you could see the toes, you could see the heel, you could see the outline perfectly. I said, okay, that's what we do have. We do have a Bigfoot. Then all the stuff I'm seeing made sense. They were putting those boards back in the pond because evidently the leeches were a protein source for them. And they would go out there and roll them over, eat the leeches, and then roll them back down because it's a constant food supply for them. We didn't have fishes big enough to eat the leeches at the time. We didn't have any brim in there that were big. So that's why they were throwing the boards back in there and putting them in there burnt side down because it attracted the leeches. And so then I decided to start trying to, well, even before that, even before I started trying to interact with them, I was still putting apples out there. But one day I was trying to decide. Now I felt like I was being watched a lot of the time when I was down there. You know, when you get that feeling that sometimes I'd look around because I just knew that something was watching me. There was no sound of any animals down there. I just knew. I just knew something felt like something was watching me. So I was looking around trying to find an extra place to put an apple. Couldn't find anywhere. Well, the next time I went down there, every time I put apples out, they ate them. Next time I went down there, to the left of the tree, there was a vine that came up straight, parallel to the ground, that up into a tree. And I said, what is that? There were 4 sticks on the part that was parallel to the ground, stuck at different angles and made like a teepee top, and it was perfect to put an apple on. I said, hey, I'm going to see how smart they are. I'm going to put an apple up here, and it covered the apple 3/4, the red delicious apple 3/4, fit perfectly. The next time I went down there, the apple was gone and the 2 on the tree were gone. And I said, hey, that's great. I said, that worked good. Um, I said, I wish I had a place to put another one. I looked to the left of that one. There was another one made just like it on a small bush. The limb was sticking out. All the leaves had been taken off, and there were 4 in the ground, just like the others, making a teepee shape at the top. And I said, wait a second, I know that wasn't there. So then I started looking at it. I started to compare, and I thought I knew a lot about the outdoors and a lot about nature. I started realizing the sticks that this was made out of, there was no tree around it that would have sticks like that. Those sticks had been brought in. So I went and pulled one up. It was stuck 3 to 4 inches in the ground, and it was sharp. But the top had been snapped off even. All of them were even. So they had been stuck in the ground and then snapped off at the top to make it even. I mean, perfect architecture of it. And they both were done that. And at first, I'll tell you, I kind of got a little bit insulted because here I am testing their ability to find this apple, see what they would do. Not only did they find it, but they had made that structure for me to put one on. Who's smarter, me or them? I put it right where they wanted me to, you know? So I kind of got a little upset, and then I just started laughing. I said, well, I'm trying to test their intelligence. I guess they showed me how smart they are. So then I started trying to interact with them. So the first thing I did was I heard about them gifting, and near that tree, I had a stump feeder, and the stump feeder had little rings on the top, and it was on flat ground and was level. So I said, I'm going to gift them some blue marbles and see what happens. So I went and put 8 to 9 blue marbles on top. Next time I came down, my wife was down there with me, and she was just kind of blowing me off like, yeah, that's not going to work, you know. She had never believed in Bigfoot until all this started. She wasn't scared of them. I wasn't scared of them. And I think the reason why is because I knew nature and she knew that I knew nature and wasn't scared of anything in the woods. And so if I wasn't scared, she wasn't scared. But when I went back down there, all the marbles were gone. Not on the ground, not on the top, nowhere, gone. And I went and told her about it. She said, I want to go see. So I picked her up. We went down there and she saw it. She said, that's crazy. They took all those blue marbles. I said, yeah, that's what we wanted them to do. Then we got on the trail and started headed a little bit north, but it really was at the closest point of the trail. And there on the right was a huge river boulder, and on the left was another huge river boulder. One of them weighed about 100 pounds, and the other one weighed 40 to 60 pounds, and they were different looking. One was smooth and a dark tan color, and the other one's more of an orangish color. She said, where'd those come from? Now, she does all the mowing, thank goodness. I bought her a real nice zero turn, 60-inch zero turn, for her to cut the yard with, and she loves to do it. She said, those weren't there. Those never been there. And she would be the one to know. And I wasn't even thinking about them gifting me back at the time because I'd always heard if they gift you something, it's going to be feathers, sticks tied together, flowers, bones, golf balls, something different, not rocks. So about 2 weeks later, I was coming back. We were coming back from my mom's house. She was sleeping on my shoulder, and all this stuff's going through my head. You know, so it's like an infection. It can get in your head, and your brain constantly works on it, trying to solve problems, questions, and puzzles. And I said, wait a second. Marbles are hard like a rock. They are kind of slick and smooth. Maybe those are gifts from them. So we got back late Sunday night. So I decided Monday morning to run down there real quick and investigate them more, see if I can see anything that could tell me anything. I get down there, they're gone. No, neither rock is there. Both of them are gone. So I had to be at work. So I'm really confused about that now. I'm starting to go up the trail and by the peach tree that produced the most, where she had cut the previous weekend, that had the lowest grass. Here was the big one right next to the peach tree, 50 yards up the road. And this was the one that weighed 100 pounds. It's heavy. I'm like, wow, this thing got moved all the way to up here. I said, but where's the other one at? So that trail makes like a big U. On the other side of the U is where we brought in like 450 loads of dirt to make a pad for the kids to park on. And the trail goes right next to it. And it's about 8 foot tall. The pad's about 8 foot tall right by the trail. Right by where they park, that other one that was smooth is on one side and another one just like it on the other side of the road. I said, they moved that one over here and put another one over here. They wanted to make sure that we knew that this was a gift from them back to us for the marbles. I said, that's crazy. But they accepted our gift. I'm going to accept their gift. So I took and loaded them up in the side by side, took them and put them by the steps to our porch. And I think that had a lot to do with all the trust and respect we built with them by accepting those gifts. And that's not the first time either that they had done something like that to make sure that we knew it was a gift. So that was crazy. So then I said, okay, let's take it a step further. Okay, we've interacted with them with this. Let's try to make a marble plate. So what I did is I took a glass pie plate, put really white aquarium sand in it, and took marbles and made a smiley face and put it right on top of that same stump feeder. My wife said, you know that we want them to interact with us by this, but the chances are they're going to take the whole plate or they're going to take the marbles. I said, I know, but at least if you don't try anything, nothing's going to happen. You got to try things and just C. We go back down there, all the marbles were at the bottom of the plate. Now this thing's perfectly level. There hadn't been any rain. They had been moved to the bottom of the plate. So we moved them back and made a smiley face. It moved to the bottom of the plate again. The next time we put them back in a smiley face. The next time they're back at the bottom. And I said, well, it looks like I could see fingertip prints on some of them, but not all of them. So I'm not sure. I'm not really getting anywhere with this. So we're just going to leave them. We'll leave them at the bottom of the plate. The next time we came back, they had made a smiley face. I was like, oh my goodness. They were interacting with us by doing it to the bottom, but when we stopped playing, they made a smiley face to get us to start interacting again. So then we started doing all kinds of stuff. We started making different shapes. Sometimes they would make a design that I couldn't understand what it meant. It meant something to them, and it was a design of some sort, some structured design, but it wasn't something that I could understand, you know. But what was really unique is when I made a square. I had three marbles on top, three on bottom, and one on each side. The one in the top middle was a lighter color blue than the other two. The next time we went down there, they had taken that lighter color blue and split it down to make a nose. They had taken the two on in the middle on each side, slid it out, and the one in the middle on the bottom slid it down a little bit to make a smiley face. In 4 moves, they made a smiley face out of a square. I said, that's crazy. They think different because if you told me to make a square, I mean a smiley face out of it, I'm going to move every one of them. I'm not going to do it just in 4 moves, you know. In 4 moves, they made a smiley face. And it's just crazy, all the stuff that started happening as we built up trust and had so many more interactions. And we're giving them marbles and stuff. I made the mistake because I didn't really do enough studying on it and decided, hey, this is just another animal like any other animal. I'm going to feed them, you know. So I made a gifting station. Now, it's not just food I put down there. I put colored lollipop sticks and put them down there, different shapes, just to see what they'll do. I put little animals and stuff down there, and they take them, and I find them sometimes in the edge of the woods like they were playing with them. Sometimes they just completely disappear. Um, but knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have taken and made a gifting station and gave them food. But I've had no negative, even when I didn't put anything down there, I had no negative interactions. But I think that's because I was lucky enough to have a group that was receptive to interacting with us. And they wanted that trust and respect and wanted for it to work out with us. So I started feeding them. And the thing that I made was had a metal roof on top. It was 4x8, and the guy that made it for me, who was 4x4s with cement in the ground. It it's 4x8 plus a sheet of plywood, a base, but it's got a little hole in the middle because I didn't have a whole sheet. I had two pieces.
Real
And
quick,
so,
one of the
go
guys in
ahead.
the chat room, Pyromedic, asked, "Did the design look like a letter or a symbol?"
It looked like
I
a
guess he was talking about
symbol.
the
Yeah,
one day
it
left that you didn't know what it was.
it looked like a symbol of some sort, but it did not look like a letter. I know some people say they make A's and stuff like that. I never saw anything that looked like an A, but I would see like a straight line down 2 or 3 marbles and then a couple of marbles to the right, then a couple of marbles down, you know, to make sort of like a little ladder, but all different kind of shapes, but they were made purposely as a symbol. It wasn't just random movement of marbles. Whatever they were making meant something to them, but the communication, you know, I didn't know what it meant. And at the time, I know now that Some people say that they make symbols. I have not gone and looked at it and compared it because most of those I didn't take pictures of just because I should have. I tried to take pictures of a lot of stuff, and I've got a book that should be coming out next week. It's going to be a 5 to 6 book series. I've already got one book that's out there, but that one's different. This is going to be a 5 to 6 book series of all the interactions with pictures I took and pictures of footprints and pictures of what they made and about their social structure. And it's going to, the first one's going to be put out next week. But as I
Another
started,
question was, um, I don't know, Endem Guts. I don't know what his name is, but he writes, "Can you rule out that the kids aren't playing with you?"
yes, first off, my kids would never go 8 to 12 foot banks, try to pick up a 100 pound rock and bring it up there and set it by the trail with another one. They wouldn't move it. And most of the time when I was doing stuff, the only person that knew about it was my wife, and they weren't the type to go outside in the woods. And it was not right at the house, it was, a distance away from the house. So the kids never do it. Now, I did ask them one time about the rocks, and they looked at me like I was crazy. Um, so, no, the kids didn't do it. As a matter of fact, as I started feeding them at the gifting station, they quit hiding their footprints. And um, I was able to tell that there was an original family group there. There was an adult male. Yeah, his print was 19 to 19 and a half inches long and 10 and a half inches wide. There was an adult female. Hers was 13 and a half inches long, 8 inches wide at the beginning. And then there was a juvenile. Now, the juvenile was only 9.5 inches long, but it only had 4 toes. And there wasn't one broken. Um, it was side to side, even they just had 4 toes and it was real narrow. Now, I don't know if that was due to inbreeding. I don't know what would cause that, but it only had 4 toes. And I've also
So
seen one later on. Go ahead.
if you had that family group with those sizes, where do you think the 16.5 inch print came from?
Actually, I learned later on that this thing was like a junction of several different streams coming in, and it makes like a big junction of all these areas that they pass through. That big trail at the bottom that I found that I was putting the apples on is actually a main trail coming out of one of those big bottoms. It actually went to 600 acres that nobody lived on. So it was coming out of those woods through the bottom, passing through. Now, I do think they were related somehow, or there would be, I would think there would be fighting and stuff like that. And I never heard any fighting sounds. I have heard the Ohio howl, I've heard the samurai chatter, I've heard whoops, all kind of different stuff. Um, but I've never heard any. Well, I take that back. There's been a couple of times where I've heard several of them going crazy, yelling at something in the bottom, but it wasn't actually a fight. It was like a warning: don't, you're not going to stay here. Go through. Type thing. Um, so anyway, as I started feeding them, that's what it was. Oh, and the little one was 6.5 inches long. So I learned that there were 4. Later on, something very weird happened. I kept feeding them, and I was putting a lot of stuff down there. If you knew how much I was paying for this stuff, you'd go, "How did you afford it?" I don't know, but I did. It wasn't cause me not eating, but I put. I found out that they liked dog food because one time I had cameras on our back porch and where we park our cars. On the back porch, I had a 35-pound bag of chicken flavored dog food to put in the dog pen to feed our dogs out there. But I didn't like the big bag, so I'd get the smaller bags and take out there. Finally, I said, I've got to get that big bag gone. I go out there one Sunday to get it and carry it out there. The bag's gone. I asked all the kids, everybody in the family, I said, "Where'd that 35-pound bag of dog food? It was here Friday." I saw it when I was leaving Friday because I actually moved it a little bit further in because it was supposed to rain and I didn't want to get wet. And all of them said no. And I'm the one that feeds the dogs. They're not going to go above and beyond, carry a 35-pound bag of dog food and stick it out in the dog pen. It's just not going to happen. I wish it would, but not going to happen. Then here's the strange thing. They did leave me a gift from that. They started leaving huge poops where I normally go. The first one I found was down there going into that trail in between the stump feeder and that big trail where I put apples. Now this poop was huge. It was 3/4 the size around as a Pringles can, and it was longer than my foot, and my foot's 13.5 inches long. It would have stopped up your toilet for days. Then I had a guy that helps around here. He helped install the pump in the stream, and when it floods, when it rains real hard, all the junk gets into the pump and stops it up, and he goes and opens it up. And he went down there to open it up, and he called me. He said, "Hey, have you got any big dogs on the property?" I said, "No. Why?" He said, "There's two poops right here by the pump that's bigger than anything I've ever seen in my life." I said, "No, I ain't got any dogs here." Then when he was driving out on the little berm in between where the wheels are on the trail coming back, there was one right there on his way out still smoking. He called me and said, "Hey, somebody really wanted to let me know that they were here because they left one right in the middle of the road and it's still steaming." And I said, "Okay, I think I know what it is, but you don't have anything to worry about." And I think they were trying to make sure I knew that that was a gift back for the dog food, live fertilizer. Now, I did not accept that one because that's something I'm not going to touch or save. I'm that was not something in my classification to take. So I just left it. But anyway,
Hey,
I put,
Neil, have
yeah.
you been to, real quick, have you been to the Expedition Bigfoot Museum?
Oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Don't they have one up there that's pretty much like
Uh,
you're talking
a
about?
poop, a poop.
Yeah.
I think they do. I think they do have one up there. Or it's a mock-up of one or the other.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
seeing pictures of that. I bet he'd be interested in having more. I bet a lot of people would be actually for
well,
DNA
you know
purposes.
what? After that, after I didn't accept it, I've never found another poop from them.
Really.
I didn't accept it. They hadn't left any more for me to see.
Well, I
Um,
don't blame you for not taking that gift. So,
yeah, but I did
Give them
learn
more dog
something.
food. Just give them more
Yeah.
dog food.
Oh, well, they got plenty of dog food. But I'll tell you something about that. I went to look on my cameras to see what took the bag. Both of the batteries on those two cameras, on where the car was and on the back porch, had gone dead on Friday. Well, the last one went dead on Friday. So sometime between Friday and Sunday is when they took the bag after the cameras were dead. So they knew the cameras were there, they knew they were on, and they knew when they went off and did not take that bag. That bag had been there for 3 or 4 weeks. It had been there long enough for them to take it, but they didn't take it until the batteries went off on the cameras that would have caught a picture of them. How crazy is that? That's just, I mean, that's insane intelligence because they know that the camera's there. They know it's working. Somehow they may know what it does, and they didn't get it until then. Now, when I made the gifting station, I took three big containers, and it's those big plastic containers that you put Christmas wrapping paper in, really deep. I put a 14-pound bag of dog food into one. I took two big bags of cereal, put in the second one, and then the third one just put a variety of things. And I started learning tons about how they eat things. Like when the 14-pound bag of dog food would go into the first one, it would fill it up like 3/4. They would scoop it at the top, but when it got to the bottom, they would pull it with their hands. And I've got pictures where you can see where the fingers were dragging the bottom. When they got to the crumbs that would get in the cracks, they would lick their fingers like we would to get the last of the potato chips off the plate. They would stick it in the grooves and then eat it. And you could see all these little fingertip prints. And I actually have pictures of one. And Richard, I think I sent you a picture of it. Now this thing's perfectly level. All the crumbs have been tilted to one corner, which means it had to get picked up and turned for all those crumbs in the grooves to go to one corner. And it looks like 4 fingertip prints in it, as if they licked all 4 fingers at the same time, stuck it in that corner to eat the crumbs off. Just crazy. I put Lance peanut butter crackers down there for them
Yeah,
in a box.
I tried to download those photos into StreamYard, but they weren't in the right format. They weren't sent as a JPEG,
Right,
and it was something else, and it wouldn't. It just kept sending me a message saying I could not download it unless it's converted over to JPEG or something like that, and I didn't know how to do that.
right. Um, I would put Lance crackers, peanut butter crackers down there, and they like peanut butter. Um, and Lance has a hole in the top of the box, and I put the box down there. And something really funny, they would, you know how we open it from the end and pull them out from the end? They don't do that. They take their hands in the hole on top and pull it to the side and slide them out the side of the box. They don't do it from the end. As a matter of fact, when they open the package, they don't open it from the end like we do. They grab it in the middle on each side and are strong enough somehow to pull it and rip the pack open to eat it that way. And I've tried it. I couldn't do it. My fingers kept slipping off. But that's how they would eat that and anything that were in packages. They would grab it on each side in about the middle and they would pull it and it would just split to open up. And I said, isn't that crazy? They do what we do, but they don't know how we do it. They do it in their own way. There's a lot of things like that I learned. I was doing tests with all kind of stuff just to see how they did things. And then something strange happened. They ended up making the place a nursery site. What they did was all of a sudden, now we'd heard bluebirds here at the house, but we never had any blue jays. When I was back home growing up, we had bluebirds, so I knew what they were. All of a sudden, one day, I started hearing blue jays everywhere. I'm like, we don't have any blue jays. Where is this coming from? Then I started seeing that all their main trails are being marked. They found some white PVC pipe, quarter-inch PVC pipes, 10 foot long from somewhere, and were putting it on the ground, marking the trail. Evidently, when they mark their trails, they use light colors because they can see them better at night to navigate. They even had one at the pond that was in a bush. It was broke about 4 foot section, and it was laying in the bush, and it was pointed up towards a tree. And I said, what is this doing here? There's no trail up there. And I went and kind of bent over to see what it's pointing out. It was pointing at a hornet's nest, so it was marking danger. Then all of a sudden, I started seeing 2 or 3 baby prints, but each baby had a juvenile with them, a different juvenile print with them. But they're different because they are different sizes. One would be 4 inches, one would be 5 inches. One would be a little bit wider. So they were different. And I started saying, what's going on here? So I called a guy I knew in North Georgia, and he said, yeah, you have a safe zone. Now you've given them more food. He said, you've got the pond or the fish getting bigger. I said, yeah. He said, now they've got food to eat at the pond and you're giving them more food. You got these peach trees. And by that time I planted some persimmons and blueberry bushes. And he said, they got plenty of food. Besides all the animals that you're drawing in, the deer and everything else, you're putting food out there and you've got the fish out there. So they got more food. They've made it a nursery site. It's a safe spot for them. And we had the nursery site for about 3.5 years. Then they came in and cut the 600 acres up on the one side north of us. Then they cut about 200 acres to the south of us, and then the guy that I knew they were there started shooting at them, coming through a pinch point. Well, after they did cut on the north side, it made a pinch point right below his house. He started shooting at them because they would come up in the daytime to the gifting station to get something to eat when I put it out there. And so they made a nursery site, but they disbanded it when they started getting shot at and all that land got cut. We still have a family group here. I believe there's three. I think there's a young male, there's a young female, and another one. And I think I saw a baby print this year, but now they're hiding their prints more because it's not as much of a safe zone. They know it has nothing to do with me. They still come here at night, and I think a couple of them are actually staying on our property. Now I don't know if they're staying in one of those old farm structures or what, but there's a couple of them I think they're still staying here because I've heard some crazy stuff right before dark or early in the morning on our property. And so, um, anyway, we've had tons of interaction with, oh, and I found out they let you know what they like when you build up a trust and relationship with them. I one time, when there was a nursery site, I added another container because they started changing getting towards the winter to more protein sources, more peanut butter, more dog food, more stuff to build fat, like other animals would. So I put another thing down there, and I'd already found out they like salmon flavored dog food better than chicken flavored dog food. Well, this one time when I was putting 2 bags of dog food down there, I put I went to Walmart and they only had 1 bag of salmon, so I got a bag of chicken. I put a bag of chicken and a bag of salmon. The next morning, I go to my car. Now, they had been watching me. They knew when I went to the store because they'd see me carrying stuff in, and I would actually see Prince come and looking in my car to see what was in there for him because I'd always leave it in the car. But what happened was the next morning, I went and right by, well, let me say this. After I put the stuff out there, I go back to park the side by side in the barn, and I've got a trash can right there, one of those big trash cans you put out by the road. I put all my trash in it, and it was empty at the time. So everything was at the bottom. The next morning, I've got a empty salmon flavored bag by my car, right where I step into it to get in the car. I said, wait a second. Are they giving me a message that they want salmon? I said, let me run down there and check this real quick. Sure enough, I go down there. The salmon was half gone. So they ate 7 pounds of salmon and they ate maybe 2 or 3 handfuls of chicken. They were sending me a message that they want salmon flavored dog food by they reached in that trash can, got that bag, put it by my car to let me know that's what they wanted. They didn't want chicken. They wanted the salmon. I'm like, that is crazy. That is nuts that they find ways to do it. And I even went, I'm 6'4" with long arms. I tried to reach the other dog food bag, the chicken dog flavored dog food. I couldn't even touch it. But yet they pulled that one out and put it by my car. Now, I always wonder, how did they know that was a salmon? Was it by observation, know that I put it in there, or was it by smell? I figure it must have been by smell. They knew that that was the salmon flavor, but I don't know for sure. Like, the funny thing about this is with these creatures, anytime you find out one thing, it leads to more questions. You never can get an answer to one thing without it opening up more questions. Like they would go into the pond. The pond was cut with a bulldozer. So there's steep banks on the side. And there's like a 2 to 3 foot drop before you get to the water. They step out of that water. It'll be about a foot to 2 foot deep there. So they're stepping up 3 to 4 foot. not grabbing anything and stepping out, and their first footprint is 2 foot in on the bank. How? If that was me, I would be reaching to grab something to pull myself out. I couldn't pick my foot up that high, much less be leaning forward enough that and my leg be strong enough to step out of it like that. That's crazy, and they do that all the time. Um, and I don't know. It's just a lot of crazy things that they can do, and it's just nuts. But I've learned a ton about them because when they quit hiding the footprints, it was so eye-opening because, and they quit hiding things they were making. I think they would make stuff to see if I would see it and to see if I would figure out what it was. And I did a lot of stuff that they did. I could figure out what they were doing. And every year prior to some new babies coming in, they always would bring in enough juveniles for one baby. If you got two babies, you got two juveniles, then you'll have another one. I don't know if he's a fill-in or a day watcher or something. I figure he's probably a day watcher. And the mature mom was there. Now, the mature male, he would come and go. The only time he was there for any length of time was he'd be here 2 to 3 weeks when the mature mom had a baby and take care of all of them. And he did not want me around at that time. He let me know he did not want me around. Um, then and then when they were, I think a mating time, he would come and be here for a week, week and a half. But a funny thing about that is, out of all the babies I've seen here, which is 11 babies, 11 different babies, some were during the nursery site, some was with her, and I think the last one was with that one. All 11, I started seeing their prints between the last week of March and the second week of May is when I would start seeing the prints. And I did see 9 out of 11 was in that time zone. Now, I did see one come through here in the middle of November, and I saw one the first week of January.
Let's
So
talk
it
about
tells,
those. Let's get
okay,
into your eyewitness, your Class A sightings on these creatures.
okay, okay. So let me just finish what I was going to say on that. It leads me to believe it's possibly they have a certain time they would like to mate, but they can mate any time of the year if the female is that time of that time to be mated. So, but I don't think it's one certain time all the time. But anyway, the first one that we saw was about 3 months, about March or April of 2020. And 2020 is when they let me know that they were here. And I'll go back and say, I think they let me know they were there because they saw me watching all the stuff they were doing and keep looking at it, trying to figure it out. But I think when I put that Bigfoot cutout, I think they thought that I knew they were here. And that's when they decided to let me know that they were here because it wasn't until that happened that they did anything to let me know. But the first one that I saw was let me say this about it. I have a high standard for what is a sighting. I have to see hair or face, which means I got to be pretty close, and know 100% that is no other creature. So I got to be close, and I've got to be able to see it long enough to know that it doesn't match anything else. The first one I saw, our family was eating. We have a bay window and a table there, and we were eating one afternoon, and I saw something down on the side by side trail squatting. Now, this is in the afternoon, sun shining, and I see something black on the trail, and we don't have any bear. And I start looking at it and looking at it. All of a sudden, I can make out the trapezius muscles. It had huge trap muscles and it went to like right under the ears on us. Then it had long arms, but it wasn't really that built. It was like a basketball player. And I figured it must be a juvenile because I kept staring at it and I was like, it must be about 6 foot to maybe 6.5 foot tall would be my guess. And I told everybody at the house about it. I said, look, I think we got a Bigfoot watching us down there. And they all looked at it, and one of the kids said, no, that's a stump. I said, there's no stump. That's on our side-by-side trail. There's no stump down there. I said, I want y'all to mark where that is, and then I want you to, when we get up to put our dishes up, I bet you it disappears. They said, it's just a stump, you know. Now, my wife didn't think it was a stump because she knew there was nothing down there, too. But my kids didn't keep looking at it because their backs were to the window and they wasn't going to sit and look at it that long. Sure enough, when we went and put the plates in the thing, in the sink, they come back and it's gone, not there anymore. Later that day, my wife and I went down there, and sure enough, grass was patted down where we saw it in the trail, and we could see its footprints going into the woods, which verified it was indeed a Bigfoot, which I'd already figured out it was because I'd already identified the trap muscles and the head on top. I could actually see the arms, you know, the way they were kind of on the knees and stuff, and it was kind of leaning forward. So that was the first one I saw. Now the second one I saw was adult, a young adult. It was 7 to 7.5 foot tall. We had a family reunion. We had a lot of people, and I was cooking two Boston butts, and the smell was going towards the woods. All of a sudden, I'm looking down towards the woods. I see something move, and behind a huge pine tree, I see this, and we're actually at a different location. We're not actually at our house this time. I see something standing behind the tree with a hand on the front side of the pine tree. I could see the chest on one side, one arm, huge hand, huge forearm, and a leg. And this one was different color. This one, if you take pine straw color and orangutan orange and go halfway in between it, that was the color of it. And I actually have a witness drawing by Sibylla Irwin that'll be in the first book that'll come out next week about all the stuff we've seen that has a picture of that one. Um, but I heard my phone ding. I went and looked at my phone, looked back up, and it was gone. And at the time, I didn't realize that you might see more other places if you got friendly with a group. I'd heard that, but I never knew that. I did I did find out through other people that I had the same thing happen, that they think it happens that way. So um, it was gone. And by the time I looked down there and looked back, it shouldn't have been gone. So I finally convinced myself that, you know, I didn't see one. There's no way I could have seen one. But what really happened was really weird. The next day, after we were cleaning up the place we rented, I hate having to pay late fees for getting up late. So it's a few minutes after 11. We had to be out of there at 11, but my wife wanted to go out and drink a coffee and us leave. Now, this was in June of 2020. And she was drinking her coffee, and I said, babe, I think I'm losing my mind on this Bigfoot stuff. She goes, what? And I told her about it. And she goes, did you see my text message yesterday? I said, no. What text message? She pulled it up on her phone, and it said, Bigfoot is here, and it had a huge print that had mashed down on a gravel road. And that print, I said, where was it? She pointed to me. It was within 5 yards of where that one was standing. So then I knew that I did, in fact, see one, which I knew it was because the hair was hanging 3 to 4 inches off the arm. And what I caught the movement of was the hair swaying in the breeze. The smoke was blowing that way, and I think it smelled the smoke of the Boston butt and came out of the woods to see if he could get something to eat. So that was the second one.
Neil, real quick before you move on, So you rented this place for the family reunion. How far away from
Yes,
your house was it?
80 miles, around 80
Okay.
miles. It was
So
not
there's no
close
way.
by. There's
Right.
no way it was one of these. All the ones I've actually seen here, except for one baby, are either solid or solid black. Now, the one baby, the last baby that I saw was a dark brown. Um, and that's a unusual story on that one too. But no, it's not wasn't close enough that it could have been one that was here. Um, but that was just so funny that because I kind of dismissed it. I kind of said there's no way that thing could disappear like that. There's no way. I would have seen it going down the hill. I would have seen it go somewhere, and it just totally disappeared. Now I didn't go over there and look. There may have been a dip behind the tree, and it may have been able to get to it. There could be a million things why I didn't see it, but I just figured from where I was, I would be able to see it. But where that print was that she took a picture of had mashed down a huge area in that gravel, and it was clearly a Bigfoot print. And it was 5 yards from where I saw that one. So the third one that I saw, now I've seen a lot of shapes in the woods. I've seen them in the trees. I don't call those sightings. Even if I take a picture of it and blow it up and I'm able to see a face, I don't call it a sighting because it didn't match my parameters. Um, One of the next one was one that I'd seen before. I took my mom to a doctor's appointment one afternoon. On the way back, when I'm coming in, and they have me patterned so much, they are so observant that I was coming in the road with my mom. It was an off time. It was like 2 to 3 in the afternoon. And I felt like I was being watched, and the window was down. I always have the window down going out there to see if I can hear anything. And I see something in the woods dark, but then I see something flash. So I take my phone, put it on camera, and because we live 2.5 tenths of a mile, quarter of a mile off the road, you can't see our house from the road. Um, Took pictures of that area. When I went later and blew it up, I could see one that was solid black. Its hair would have been about 2 inches long, but it kind of was flowed back as if it had gel in it, but I'm sure it didn't have gel in it. But the face was weird. The face was a light tan and it was shining, like as if you armor alled your dashboard in your car. Well, 2 to 3 months later, I had fallen asleep. Now, this time, the babies were looking in the windows watching TV, and they gave me a lot of gifts while they were watching the TV. Like, one thing they gave me was a rock, a quartz rock with a orange colored thing in the middle of it that's shaped like an arrowhead, and we had arrowhead collection at the base of underneath the TV, and they left it on the banister. I cleaned it up, and it's really neat. And then one time when we had a Christmas tree in there, they had a rock and somehow have etched a shape of a tree and left it on the back porch for us, like as if to say, I like the tree. But anyway, 2 a.m., I fell asleep. 2 a.m., I woke up, and we've got a little Yorkie that stays in the house, one of our kids' dogs. It was on the armrest of the couch that I'm sitting on, and it's staring at the window. Now, where they would usually look in the bay window, they'd look on the back side of it, and we couldn't see it from the table. But this one was on the front side of it. I was thinking, what the heck are you looking at? You're just staring at the window. I turn around and look, and there is that face that I had blown up looking in the window straight at me. Um, and it was the same one. Now, the next morning, I realized when I went out there why it was looking in that window, because there's also one standing in the window on the backside. So it was looking in one window, and the other one was looking in the other window. That's the only reason I saw it. That was the third one. Now, I've got a son that's seen four here. My wife's seen one here, and I've seen four. Now, the last one's really strange. I put out I put out stuff for them to eat at the gifting station. I started to cross the creek where those logs were, and I could smell the smell of them. Several times I've had the smell. It could be pure skunk, a skunk wet dog mix, and a skunk roadkill mix is the ones I've smelled here. But I smelled it in the creek. And so I kind of went up. The smell went away. It was following the creek. It was following the wind in the creek. I rolled back, smelled it again, and finally the third time I went higher up, and there is something squatting like a rabbit. Now my mind is saying it's a rabbit, but my mind's also saying that's too big to be a rabbit. That thing would be 3.5 foot tall if it was standing up. It's way too big to be a rabbit. So on my trust and verify, I started looking to see if there was a tail. Couldn't see a tail, but it would have been sitting on it. Then I went to look for the ears. There it was. It had ears on the side of its head. They were smaller. Now, this thing never turned and looked at me. It was looking up the hill. It was smaller than what ours would be. It was a little lower than what ours would be, and it was flatter than ours would be. Um, but then I realized it was a baby Bigfoot. And then all of a sudden, it took not two leaps, but two movements and was gone uphill. I think what happened was they knew I put some food out. They were making their way because where that was in between where the mom stays and where some of the little ones stayed, and where they crossed to go to the gifting station. I think that the little one knew I put stuff down there, was on the way to the gifting station, and I just happened to catch it where I was when I was crossing the creek going to the pond. It was a luck of the draw type thing. But that was the four. Now I've got three more that are I'm 90% on. But the reason I'm 90% on is two of them were babies and they moved like chimpanzees. Um, I knew there weren't any, I didn't see enough to at the time to say it definitely is because I didn't see a face and I didn't see hair, but they were playing with my Yorkie. One time my Yorkie was chasing one, not trying to attack it, just like playing. And one time it was chasing our Yorkie. And the other time, my wife was I and I was going down to the gifting station. I saw something on the platform, and I said, "Babe, there's something on the platform down there." Now I had made a couple of boxes to try to get fingerprints. You could open the lid hang over the top. You could open it up, and you could get good fingerprints. They went in at one time, but when they saw me trying to get fingerprints, they never went in it again after that. Um, but all of a sudden, we're looking and something slides off. Now I'm about 50 yards away, so I was not close enough to meet my first two parameters, but it slid off that deck, went like a kid going off playground equipment, slides off to the ground. It goes on all fours and then moves to the back of the gifting station and goes in the woods. Now, the strange thing about it was its arms and its legs was outside the frame of its body. It didn't move exactly like a spider, but it was outside the frame. It was kind of weird because I'd always seen animals with them right underneath them, and this was outside the framework of it. But again, I didn't call that a sighting, even though I know it's nothing else. If it had been a cat or a dog up there, it's not going to slide off. It's going to jump off and go into the woods as fast as it could. It wasn't a raccoon because I got the back end view of it and there was no tail on it. Um, so I'm 90% or more that there was one up there eating, but I'm not going to call it sighting because that doesn't fall into my parameters that I go by. So
So now, what is the outcome? Where do you want to be with these things in the future?
I want to learn as much about them as I can because I think I've got a very unique situation that most people don't have. I'm hoping that that original mom and dad will move back once the woods, as long as they don't build on it, as long as the woods start regrowing. Now that's going to take some time. Um, I just want to learn everything I can about them.
Do you
I've
use
learned a
any other
ton from them.
equipment? Do you use any other equipment like night vision or thermal or anything like that?
I have not used that here. I do use it when I go on expeditions, but I've not used that here, even though I believe that thermals would work. But I can tell you this, I can tell when they're at the gifting station. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I believe somehow they communicate with crows because there's a crow in a big tree by the gifting station. Then there's two more surrounding it. And every time I would go down there after that, I would see fresh prints down there by the gifting station after the crows were down there. So I think the crows are actually guarding it, letting them know if anything's coming. Because as soon as I walk out of the house, I've got a window that stays open. I don't hear any crows, but I go outside the house, I'd hear all the crows start yakking back and forth. I think it's telling them that I'm there. There's no way I can prove it, but every time I go down there afterwards, a little bit later, I see fresh prints. So I got a feeling that they have a lookout system um, by help with the help of the crows, or it could be a day watcher imitating crows, three of them or something. But it's just weird because it happens and there's too much of a correlation in time between when they do it and then I go down there later and there's fresh prints down there. So, but
Well, I
that's
would
just
definitely
Can you?
encourage using. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, can you see your gifting area from one of your
no,
windows?
no, too far away.
No.
And I really think they like it that way. That's the reason they'd come to it in the daytime because they know I can't see it in the daytime or at night. It's far enough away that it's, got a bunch of trees in between me and it, blocking the view of it. I've even had them move that stump feeder that was down there one time. It was half full of corn, had about 150 pounds of corn in it. They were able to pick that up. Now, the handholds on this stump feeder, the handholds are where the lid locks in. So if you don't take the lid off, there's no handholds. But this thing was moved 10 to 15 yards out of where it was, close to a tree. And I really think they were moving it so that they could be behind that tree and ambush stuff coming to it. I know that that sounds crazy, but I've seen the front field. I've got two stump feeders. I've seen where they've been moved, and then I had a camera out there, and the camera got turned sideways, and then I saw where deer legs were dragged on the floor, not the body, just the deer hooves were dragged on the floor as if they had killed one and carrying it off, and the legs were just rubbing on the ground. Um, so I know that they move them, but then they do everything for a purpose, for a reason. And I think when they were moving those two out in the field, it was really strange too. They would move one 5 foot one night. The next night they would move another one 5 foot, and they would alternate and move it till it got close enough to the woods they could grab a deer. Um, and I picked up on that. So, and I didn't want them to kill the deer, so I actually went and when I started to see them move after that, I'd move them further towards the middle of the field, and they quit trying to move them. But um, so there's a lot of interesting things I learned, and I really think that they were doing it just so they could set up an ambush of what was going eaten out of the stump feeder. But there's no way I could pick up that thing with 150 pounds in it without taking the top off. And even then, it would be a struggle because I had made chutes on the bottom so the corn wouldn't go to the ground. I had 4x4s attached to the bottom and made chutes to go down to the ground with a cap on the end of it and holes in it so water could go out so it wouldn't get on the ground and get all messy. Um, and so for me to grab it, even empty and move, I'm taking little bitty baby steps. But this didn't appear to be baby steps. This looks like it took 2 to 3 steps and or just a few steps and moved it up there. And this thing had 150 pounds of corn in it. So it wasn't like it was light, but they have extremely long arms. So and they're strong enough, they probably just grabbed it from the side, picked it up, and moved it up there. So it's just strange.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a lot going on. Um, I would encourage you and Johnny get together because he's got a similar situation, and y'all are in the same state. So if y'all could work something out to get together and do an investigation out there, I think that would be exciting.
Right.
Maybe film it and then have you and Johnny on the show talking about your experience on your property. That'd be an awesome show.
Okay. Does any
Well,
of
we've definitely been comparing notes
yeah,
since we
we
started
have.
talking.
Did anybody ask any questions that I need to answer?
Well, we can, yeah, because we've been going for almost an hour and 40 minutes, so we can open it up to questions. So if anybody in the chat room has a question, please put it in capitals because I'm seeing everything and it'll stand out and I can put it on the screen. Now we'll have to ask the question when we put it up because Neil can't see it because
Okay.
he's on his cell phone. So if anybody's
What
got any
is
questions,
with all the tracks you have around there? What's the topsoil like in your area?
It
Is it
is hard.
clay or is it?
It's hard packed clay. So when they step down near the gifting station, I can see the prints because it mashes the grass down. But when I take a picture of it, since the photograph is just one dimensional, you can't really see it. I actually
Have
had
you
some that go
ha-
ahead.
have you seen those lidar apps?
I did, and I tried to get one of them, um, and it worked a little bit, but it was such a pain. You got to hold it for so long while you're doing it. I had one that I put on this phone. It just took forever for it to do it. But what I really liked about it is I could measure it, put the measurements on it, and take a picture of it with the measurements on it so you could see how big it was. I did like that part of it.
I think the one that I've used in the past is pretty good. You gotta. It's pretty user friendly. I think it's uh, maybe Polyscan or something. I'll have to look and I'll send that one to you. But it's pretty easy. You just
Okay.
have to kind of slowly go around and rotate around where you're looking, but you don't have to. It's not that difficult to operate.
Right.
I've liked that one. That one's been pretty good. So
I did have one that stepped out of the pond. It didn't step out far enough, and I had a really good impression there. And I used one on it, and it came out pretty good.
have
Um,
you ever done any casting of these prints?
I did one, and they let me know that they didn't want me to take cast. Anytime I would do something they didn't like, they would still come to the gifting station, but they would hide their prints. I know that sounds crazy, but they would hide their prints somehow. I'd see stuff that's gone. I would see stuff that they've left behind, know that they ate it by how it was done. Because I've also got stainless steel on the legs and on the bars going up to the roof to, try to keep the raccoons off of it. And I've got to where I put stuff on the roof, like peanut butter and stuff on the roof, which is about 8.5 to 9 foot up. So I know that nothing could get to that because of the stainless steel I have wrapped around the legs and supports.
Yeah, a couple of years ago when I started gifting, I started out with eggs and a corn pile, I would just dump corn out and then stack eggs and apples and everything else on top of it. Well, I went out there and dug up all the ground and then smoothed out all the dirt around it.
Right.
And it really, it was a little over the top, and I didn't even want to share it with people when it happened. I had been working on it for probably about 3 days, and then I got finished with it. And the next day I come out and there's like a perfect print right in the middle of it, like it was intentional, like they
Right.
knew. And it
They
was
knew
just so
what they were
on the
doing.
it was so on the nose. I didn't even want to share it with people. You know what I'm saying? It was just so quick, and it was
They do
like
that.
it was just so obvious that it wasn't. I mean, it was 100% intentional. I mean, it's
Right.
just perfect right in the middle of it. And I thought
They
that
do
was
that.
that was pretty interesting.
They do that here too. They will do things intentional to let me see it. And it is so intentional that you can tell it's not by accident, you know.
Right.
Um, one time I was down at the gifting station and I saw this print pressed into the ground and the ground so hard I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But I had the marble plate and it was on the flat part, but it got knocked off, and the marbles had gone underneath and had dirt all on it. They had taken a marble, cleaned it off, and put it in the print for me to see that print, to make sure I saw
Hmm.
that print. I'm like, this wasn't by accident. They put that marble there on top of it, cleaned off. There was no other marble under there. It didn't have sand all on it. Put it in that print to make sure that I saw it. And I thought that's crazy. That's as
What's
intentional as it gets.
There's a question up here from Ohio Bigfoot researcher says, what color is the female and how often does she have a baby?
I never saw the female, so I can't attest to the color of the female. Now, she loved to go in and out of the pond. Um, in fact, Richard, you probably saw one print that I sent you that looks like all the leaves had been removed. What happened
Right.
there is that female, adult female, that was her first step out of the pond, and her foot was wet. And when she walked, it took all the leaves with it, except there were a few of them that fell over top of it later. But that's what made that bare spot was her foot being wet. That was the first step out of the pond, and my foot's next to it, so you can see how wide it is compared to my foot. But um, she would have one about every other year. Um, so it was about every other year that she was having a baby when she was here, because that's when the male would show up, and he did not want me around when he was here.
When you said that, how do you know what were the things he was doing to let you know that?
Well, this actually is what clued me into the time of the year the babies were born. Um, and hers seems like they were the first time I'd see prints of it would be at the end of March. So I don't know how long that she would have the baby just with her eating and forced to move there. So when I say born, that's what I'm really mean is that's the first time I saw the print of it. Um, I went down there one night, one late one afternoon, and I was just gonna chill out. I'd had a rough day, and sometimes you get frustrated. You just want to go in the woods, clear your head. It was one of those days. Nobody knew I was over there. And I pulled to the side, and I was in my side by side, and it was starting to get dark. And over behind one of those hills is one of their big boy trails, one of the wide trails that they use all the time. All of a sudden, I could hear impact impressions and feel vibrations. I'm 70 yards away, and I'm feeling vibrations sitting in the Polaris with um, the wheels on it, and I'm feeling the vibrations 70 yards away. And all the dove had already settled in the trees, and it was like freaking Jurassic Park. All these dove and birds are taking off in front of it. And then when it got right behind that, there's two big trees right behind it. Both of the trees started shaking. I got the feeling that I shouldn't be there. Now, it was not a scared feeling, but I got a feeling that I shouldn't be there. But I wanted to stay and see what this one had to look like. I was like, this thing is huge. I've got to see how it looks. And as it went down that trail, I never got a glimpse of it. I don't know if it was bending it over because that hill's about 9 foot tall, but that feeling got stronger that I need to leave. And so I left. I just was like, okay, I pushed my luck. It's getting dark. Nobody in the family knows I'm here. Anything happens, they would have no clue. I'm just going to go ahead and go. Now, 2 weeks after that, I found a baby print that was 4 inches long down by the creek. Then that actually was the first baby print that I saw. So the big male was there. I'd seen his print a couple of times during that time period down by the pond. And so I knew he was there, but he did not want me there. He did not want me to be around when he was providing food while the mama was taking care of the baby. Did not want me there. Um, and that happened twice on two different occasions. The other time, it wasn't as drastic as that. It was more of just pounding his feet. And once he did that, and I realized what time of the year it was, I said, okay, it's there must be another baby here. So I went ahead and left. And sure enough, a week later on that one, I found a footprint by the pond down by the creek. There's actually two creeks near the pond, and they actually meet. But the first one I found was over on the other creek. This one I found was over by the pump, the water pump. But it was 2 different years. It's about uh, 2 years apart. But he did not want me down there whenever he was there taking care of them. And I can't blame him. Would you want somebody, if you've got a baby, would you want somebody to come into what you consider your zone, impeding
Oh,
stuff?
definitely
No,
not.
right,
There's a lot of similarities. Now, I can't, the soil around here is horrible. It's all leaf litter and pine straw. So anything I get impressions, I've only gotten two really good tracks. One was a juvenile, and you were mentioning before, I think you said one had four toes
yeah,
on one you
with a
found. I
juvenile deer.
found the very first track I found was a three-toed track years ago. I only had three toes, and back then I knew very little about these creatures. So when I saw it, I
Right,
knew it was weird, and I knew what I was looking at. But I'm like, there's no way that that could be. And then later on, I heard that this is actually pretty common for whatever reason that, they can have 3 to 4 toes sometimes. And I found that print, I think 2 other times since then. It's the left foot. But the thing that you're saying about the stomping, for the first couple of years around here, um, I think I was dealing with the male. And I think that's what he was doing. I think he was
right,
testing to figure out how I was going to react. And I
right.
actually I have a recording. The very first like good piece of evidence I ever got was the growl. I've got a video of I go down to the driveway, and it's been so long. I don't even think anything really happened to start this off. I think I was kind of just guessing, or maybe there was just like a little bit of noise. But I walked down to the end of the driveway, or the side of my house part of the driveway where the garage is, and all I did was say hello. Right directly after that, there's a growl, and I got that growl recorded, and it
Yeah,
goes, well,
yeah,
it's maybe 40 yards away. My dog goes absolutely nuts. And then as my dog's barking, it kind of makes the same noise back. It just goes "Whoa," back to it. Well, after doing that, there is a very obvious stomp sound,
Right.
like super obvious. And I thought for a while, like it jumped out of a tree, because that's how heavy it sounded.
Right.
But, since putting all this together where I think he was actually testing me out, I think that was a foot stomp is what he was
Right.
doing. And it's
I
just
can.
so over the top and I can, I've experienced that, the tree shaking thing too. Nothing like you're talking, nothing that big,
Right.
but like in the evening, like 2 hours, hour and a half before the sun went down, and
Right.
trees back there going like that. But
That's
to
a crazy thing
experience
to see,
those
isn't it?
those stomps, yeah, and to experience those stomps in person, it's just
It's
the whole thing's
mind-boggling.
just super surreal. It's
Right.
just not even. But you know who? Do you know who Flat Rock is
Oh yeah. I
from
mean,
Alabama?
yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you talked to him before?
Yeah. Several
Oh,
times.
okay. Oh,
So
okay. That's good.
his situation is different. I talked to him in person for a long time on exhibition that we were both on. His situation is different. His group seems to be a lot more aggressive towards him, and there's things that's happened there that I believe made it that way.
Yeah.
So he's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum than what I am, where ours get along with me and trust and respect me. They Their his are more wanting him to leave than anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's on the
Yeah.
opposite end. And I won't go into the whole story with him because that's for him to tell. But he told me all the stuff that had happened there and stuff like that. And
Oh yeah, we had
um,
him on. We interviewed him.
I will
Yeah,
tell
I've
you,
been talking to Flat Rock for a couple of years now.
I will tell you
Yeah.
that I if they're really kind of protective of us. We had people here for 2 or 3 days, and which is very unusual. And so we were outside playing music, cooking out. It was some family that come from out of state and stuff. And I had our dogs were barking. I've got to kind of recognize their bark to know it's either them or a coyote, you know. Um, but they kept barking. Ours kept barking, looking outside. So I went out there to see if I could see what it was. I never could see anything, but they kept on and on. And finally, I said, I'm going to go see what's going on. And I went out there and looked. And on our second step, there is a footprint on our porch step where one had stepped in the mud. No lie, this one has 6 toes, not slid,
Hmm.
6 toes. And it was behind a fern where it had stepped. It was behind a fern that was looking straight in our door. And everybody had just left that day around 2. And this was about an hour and a half later. And I think he was just coming to check on us to see if we were okay. As wild as that may seem, I think he was coming to look into the thing to see if we were okay. And we were
Dude,
sitting on the couch.
I could see that happening. One of the one times that, like I know my in-laws, ever since I started doing this, they probably think I'm crazy. And it finally took my wife actually experiencing things herself to,
Right.
to kind of back me up or whatever. But I was back when I worked evenings a couple of years ago. I'm at work, and my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law had come over here to eat dinner with my wife. Well, my wife calls me up, and both of them drove separately. And she calls me up. She says, "Hey, you won't believe what just happened." I'm like, "What? What happened?" She said, "My brother-in-law, he left, and about 5 minutes after he left, he calls her up and says, 'Hey, I don't know what you guys have in your woods, but whatever it is, it's huge, and it just followed me down your driveway.'" And I was like,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
finally somebody, and I think that's probably what happened is
it is.
I
When they
wasn't
get,
there.
and they do that, they get to where when they build up relations, you're like an extended family. I mean, I get the feeling it's like we're an extended family of them. I had a guy working on the porch. I was re-putting new flooring on the porch. One guy was here by himself, and where they put the stuff for the porch is going towards the wood where a day watcher always stays. It's on the back side where our bedroom is. And all of a sudden he called me and he said, is there anything I need to know about? And I said, what do you mean? He said, there's no wind here and it sounded like a whole tree got pushed over. I said, well, what were you doing? He said, I was just going out there to look at the lumber out there because I wanted to find a certain piece and, and one that I could cut up into pieces. And I saw one that looked like bent. So I was going out there. All of a sudden it sounded like a whole tree fell in the woods. I said, no, everything will be fine. Just don't go in the woods. Everything will be fine. One of them had taken a limb because I went in there later to look see what happened. There was a huge limb about 50 foot up in a big old hardwood tree, and it broke it off and it fell to the ground. It was about 30 foot long and about as big around as, what can I say? About a 5 gallon bucket at where it broke off the tree at and fell to the ground. And it scared the living crap out of him. He called me and it was when there's only one person here uh, and nobody's here, they don't like that. And that's what they did to try to scare that guy off when he started walking towards that lumber.
Hmm.
It's crazy some of the things they do.
No. We got any more questions from anybody?
Nope, no
How about
questions.
you, Richard?
No, no. Me and Neil had an opportunity to talk last night for about an hour and a half. So I was asking him questions last night and stuff, and he pretty much went through the same stuff today and everything else. So yeah, it was really good.
Well, Neil, why don't you, before we let you go, why don't you tell everybody what the name of your book is?
All right, it's on Amazon. I have one out now that's called Understanding Bigfoot. And it's by Neil Ryder, Ryder. And really, what that one is about is stuff that I've learned from the ones here. It's what it goes into is if you're hiking, camping, fishing, or hunting, what you can expect to hear from them and them do. And then at the end, it's got all kind of different patterns that they do, like walking you out of the woods, how they do it, what they do, what does it mean, possibly mean, and can't narrow down exactly what everything means, but a lot of times there's several possibilities, and on some of them, how you should respond to it. Um, if you get one growling at you, that's kind of a serious thing. Or if you get a bluff charge, that's really serious. You need to turn around and leave. Don't run. You just turn around and leave. They don't want you in the area because the next thing that happens is you're going to get stuff thrown at you. And then if you don't react to that, they may hit you with something. So that's what that one's about. Um, Now I'm starting a series of things that happened here with actual pictures in it of what I took at the time, so you not only can read it, but you can hear about the interaction and you can see what I saw at the time. And that one should be coming out next week. I've got it finished and I've got most of it uploaded. I got to read through it one more time. Then it should take about 3 days for it to come out. But it's going to be in a 5 part series. And this was about the beginning stuff. And you will hear some of the stories, read some of the stories in it that we talked about tonight, but you'll see pictures along with it. And that one is called Bigfoot in Georgia. And then This is going to be book one, and it's Bigfoot in Georgia Cohabitation Chronicles. Bigfoot let us know it was there. It's the beginning story of a bunch of interactions, and then at the end, I put what we learned from that, what we think we learned about them from that. Um, that'll be coming out next week on Amazon. And then they're going to have 4 to 5 more after that that are a continuation of it. The next one's going to be about the gifting station. Then the next one's going to be about their social structure and their social setup. So I've got it structured, and I've got things on every one of them, interactions on every one of them that I'll have pictures on. And at the end, I'm going to put down what I think we learned from it. So I think it's going to be an interesting series that if people really want to learn about them, it'll be worth the read. Now, again, I'm taking what they do by several interactions um, to find out what we believe that they mean from it. So it's not the gospel because really the only one that really knows is them. But I've had enough interactions with them. I'm pretty sure that what we're saying is what they're doing. But that should be
Right.
coming out next week.
Well, awesome, man. I look forward to it. I have to hop on Amazon. Real quick, since we're talking about it. Angie Williamson,
Hmm.
friend of the podcast and the group, she just had a book come out, and I'm about halfway done. I think it's called Bigfoot on the Brain. It's on Amazon. So if you guys want to go check that out, she's got a lot of sighting reports from Georgia, Heard County, a little bit about the group and how she got started in it and everything else. It's a neat little book. So just so everybody knows, we want to give a shout out to Angie, and she's also, I think she's in the process of like writing 2 more. So
I
not to
told
be outdone, I guess I'm going to have to start writing books too. Then I'm coming
I
after both
told
of y'all.
I talked to Angie, and we actually have promised we're going to exchange books, so that way it doesn't cost us anything.
Oh, that's
We
cool.
hadn't met up to exchange them yet, though.
Yeah, Angie is good people, man.
Yes, she is.
She's a really really good person.
She really is. Well, is
Now,
there
Richard, you
anything
got
else?
anything else, buddy?
No, I'm good. I'm not writing a book. So if I write a book, it's Kama Sutra for the single guy. It's only 2 chapters, right hand, left hand. I don't know. But no, it was a great time. Good stories. I like listening to all that stuff. I love anything that's Bigfoot related. So
Well, I hope everybody has a good night, and I enjoyed being here. And if y'all want to go to our website, you can go to bigfoottalk.com, and it also has patterns in it and some stories in it and stuff. So if you want to learn more, you can go to that
nice.
website, bigfoottalk.com.
Excellent. Well,
BigfootTalk.com. Y'all hear
we
that? Make sure y'all go visit that.
we really appreciate it,
Go
Neil.
ahead. I'll let
And
you.
Well,
oh no,
thank you.
it's all right.
I had a good time.
Yeah, maybe we can have you back again and talk about your books and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, both of y'all have a good evening. Everybody out there, thanks for participating in the chat. And Richard, I guess I'll talk to you later on, buddy.
Everybody have a good night.
Yeah. We we don't have any shows coming up next 2 weeks. Christmas is next week, so we have nothing planned. So everybody can be with their families. The following week after that is New Year's, so we don't have anything going after that. But then we get back to a regular schedule, um, in January and stuff like that. So we got some guests lined up. I think 3 in January and already into February. So should be exciting.
I'm working on 2 more that actually. Vic Cundiff. It's actually 2 different ladies that he knew that he sent my way. So hopefully we can get them scheduled too. So 2026 is
Good
looking
deal.
good, man.
Well, I've got a surprise one I'm working on. He already said yes. We're just trying to finalize a date. I'm shooting for February 5th is really the date. He has not responded to that date, but definitely it'd be a name everybody's heard, everybody knows. So it'd be an exciting show. I look forward to talking to him. But I'm
Yeah, it
not
must
going
be
to
a big
put it out there
surprise
yet.
because I don't know who it is either.
Yeah, we discussed
Do
it.
I know who it is?
We'll discuss it. But yeah. But we'll discuss it some more over the phone. But so I don't want to put it out there and get our hopes up or anything like that. But he did say yes, absolutely. Like I said, it's just narrowing down a date. He wanted to definitely shoot for things after the holidays. Since January is pretty full, I shot the date of February 5th. He said he responded.
It's Joe Rogan, isn't it?
He'll look at that date and see if it's available that date and stuff like that. So, yeah, I
You
wish.
got Joe Rogan.
I wish.
Well,
No, I got Sean Ryan.
Okay, well, tell both of them I got to look at my schedule first, okay, before we set this up. I got things I got to do, Joe Rogan. All right, man. Well, good to go. Good show.
All right, man. Take care, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, have a good one. Good night.
All right, guys. Good to see everybody. Great chat room. A lot of great conversation going in. Try to get to as much as I could. The guest could not see the question because he's on his cell phone. The only people that can see it are if you're on a laptop or a computer or something like that. So I try to get him out there. But again, we let the guests do all the talking because we want to hear what they have to say since this is their time. But I really appreciate all you guys. I hope everybody has a fantastic Christmas and enjoy the holidays. Spend time with your families. Remember the reason for the season. Each and every one of you guys. We'll see you in January on the first show of the year. So take care. God bless, and we'll see you